Three, two, one. What's going on, folks? Welcome to 34 Questions. I'm your host, 34, and today we have Jason The Running Zen in the building. How you doing tonight, Jason?
Blessings, brother. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming through, man. It's my first one for 2026. And, honestly, since it's been such a rough year or rough time for the podcast, I feel like I've been having 3-month gaps from every interview that I kind of do. So I'm sure you'll hear me say this, and I'm people who are following, you're going to hear me say like, oh, I'm a little rusty, or I got to do this, I got to do that. So we might come up with some hiccups, but thank you for rocking with me tonight. For the folks out there who are unfamiliar with the flow of the show, for you, Jason, too, we're going to start off with a warm-up. After that, we'll jump into an icebreaker. After the icebreaker, we'll go to the main meat of the podcast where we kind of spin the wheel of fate, and then whichever number it lands on, that's how the conversation flows. And after all that, we'll finish out with some closeout questions. Sound good to you, Jason?
Yes, sir.
For sure. So, I was having some technical issues before we got on, and we started off with the very first question, which is, how are you? I would say, let me reframe that for you and just ask, like, what it has been, I guess, a good positive thing so far in the year 2026 for you.
Yeah, man. The last few years has been just very eye-opening for me as far as like healing. Last year, I had the courage at 38 years old to seek therapy, something that, may sound general, but a lot of men, I wish and I hope that a lot more men in society can go do that. And again, being a father, as we were speaking a couple minutes ago, being a father now has helped me tremendously in that, to be able to, I guess, be on a mission to break those generational curses, those Filipino traditional curses that we have in our culture or whatnot. And just like trying to be better every single day for my boy, for my wife, for this world.
I got you. A couple things came up for me there. One, I'm a big supporter of therapy. As far as, some folks might not dig it. I think for me, it's always been a key thing. My first exposure to it was when I was 12, like one of the nuns that I went to, I was going to school, Catholic school, but they found my rhyme notebook and was like, yo, man, I think you need to talk to somebody. And so that was my first exposure to it. For you feel like you kind of got lucky. I feel like with therapy, you always have to kind of find the right match too, right? You got to find a therapist that kind of vibes with you. So yeah, for you, did you feel like you got lucky, got a solid one?
Yeah, I felt it out. I had actually two parts of therapy. I had a female therapist who was, a minority female therapist. And then I also had a male minority therapist, nothing wrong with, all cultural therapists, but they say like when you have someone that has a little similar background, they can relate to you. So I felt that was really incremental on the vibe. And I just try to trust the process. And holding space is a whole different game that I hope everyone can learn to do, like holding space and just listening, right? And I'm very thankful that it was a great experience so far. Right now I'm on hold with therapy, but I definitely can see myself going back soon.
I got you. Well, I'm glad it sounds like hopefully you got what you were looking for at the time you were in it. I'm currently in it as well. In the beginning, it was like every week, and then it became every 2 weeks, and now I'm glad to be in a space where I just have to reach out, for availability and get that set up when things come up. The second thing that you had mentioned I want to touch on is Filipino generational curses, right? I know there's a range of them, but if you don't mind me asking, what's one that you feel like was addressed since your process?
Yeah, so my dad was he grew up in that time where, don't cry, be a man. And that definitely affected me. I remember my first heartbreak, I was 13 years old, and I had my first heartbreak. My mom was consoling me. They both came home work. And I remember my dad coming up them stairs, and he walked straight to my room, was like, why are you crying? Be a man. And I was like, ever since then, it was throughout my life, it was hard to put an emotion. Like I didn't know how to feel. I don't know how to feel throughout my life. And I grew up with a lot of temper issues, right? And I've done a lot of work on myself. They call it inner work, which is why like the Zen part of my name, Jason The Running Zen, right? We'll get into that later. But I've done a lot of work on myself to heal a lot of those parts of myself, right? So definitely trying to, especially with my son now, like if he wants to cry, if he wants to name his emotions, go ahead and do it, son, because your pops went through that, and I'm not trying to I'm trying to break that. You know what I mean? I'm trying to break that cycle of this toxicity, this male toxicity that we have in society. I mean, I hate to say that's generalized, but it still exists.
No, it definitely does, man. I work with high schoolers, or I work at a high school, and so it's interesting because for me, I never feel like I can make that difference like right in this moment, right? It's almost like I have to plant a seed, and hopefully, as they live their lives, they get to a point where they kind of reflect on it or look back, and it makes sense to them then. Because a lot of things, especially, I feel like adults, we want to, we're passionate, we know what our mistakes are, and we try to like make sure the kids don't do the same thing. When, I mean, honestly, it almost feels like they have to have those mistakes, or they have to go through those things first for them to really understand what the lesson is. So it's just hard sometimes because you want to save them, but unfortunately the best thing you can do is just be there for them. And at least for my job, that's how I see it. I just have to, the biggest part for me is showing up. It's easy to call out, it's easy to miss days, but I try to be a consistent person, even if I am just like an NPC to them. Like I'm just really in the background because I'm not a teacher. But yeah, so I definitely feel that. One thing about, you talked about therapy too. I'm the kind of person who's jumped jobs a lot in my lifetime, and I finally found I feel like a place that I belong in youth development and working with kids. But I have been doing it for a while, so I've been really inspired to maybe go back to school and become a therapist, just because I think I love listening to people and I like helping them work through things if I have the knowledge to, which I don't feel confident in all the time. But yeah, especially, we talked about cultural differences or finding the right one. I think what's been heavy on my mind, especially in the past year, is like my pops. He's more open to doing therapy at his age now, but he had asked me, can you find a Filipino person around my age that's a guy? And makes it really hard to find that specific person. And I guess for me, it's like, you know what? I understand why he would want that or why he's looking for that. And it sucks that I can't find someone like that right away. And that person's probably booked up all the time. So within just thinking my future and maybe what the future needs is another like Filipino therapist that's a male, So all those things are kind of lining up for me. And who knows? I'm inspired now. Been thinking about it, but it's not like I've actually done the action to do it yet. But yeah. Anyways, let's jump into sorry, I heard my dad calling me in the background. Let's jump into the warm-up, man. All right. So my first question for you in the warm-up, Jason, is what would you like the audience to know about you? If there was just something for you to, I used to call it a disclaimer, but I don't want to call that anymore. Just something that you want folks, so they understand where you're coming from a little bit better. What would you like them to know about you?
Yeah, just that I am an imperfect human being who is trying his best every single day. And as someone who's battled perfectionism and self-sabotage and procrastination, all the way down the line, just someone knowing that I try my best to show up every single day, not just as a father, a husband, a brother, a kuya, all the way down, an uncle, everything that I play in my life. I just want to show up with that energy for the world. And even though people may not know me, that my heart's always trying to put out that positive energy out there because this world needs it, right? And I think that's where I hope that we can all just be kind to each other.
No doubt. No doubt. I heard you say there was like some self-sabotage. If you don't mind me asking, what's something that you felt like throughout your whole life that you felt like you self-sabotage yourself in?
That I'm not good enough, bro. That I'm not good enough.
I got you. I mean, I think that's almost a daily thing. And I almost feel like I don't want to assume, but since I do like to, I guess look at the connections we have with people, that's almost like a common thread, right? Like a lot of us just do not feel like we are who other people think we are, kind of thing, right? Which is tough. Is there is there something about yourself that you still feel like you have a hard time accepting, but people, say it about you, and then you're just like, it could be a compliment that it's really hard for you to take.
Whew, I mean, um, one of the hardest things I struggle with, because I was bullied a lot. I mean, as a lot of people probably been bullied in their life, right? But I've had to grow up at a young age. I lost my pops when I was 22. I'm 39 now, about to be 40. So growing up at a young age, I speak and think and talk deep. And no disrespect to anyone, but I think sometimes throughout my life, I would have conversations that were a little too in advance, or way too much in the future. People are like, hey, I'm just trying to live my life, bro. And I'm like, that in itself has caused me to struggle with connection. And, I would hear a lot, oh, you're too deep for me. You're too emotional. You're too sensitive. And that also is something that, to kind of backtrack with therapy, I brought that up to my therapist, and they helped me realize, bro, that's your superpower, man. Like the world, like men especially, talking about vulnerability. We just met, but I'm probably will give you my heart and soul. I'm probably one of the most vulnerable people you ever meet. And I say that with all humility, because I feel vulnerability, when you can let your heart out there, that's how you really connect with people. So I kind of went all around there, but vulnerability, bro.
No, I got you, man. I 100% agree and relate. I would say I'm the type of person, I for sure remember times in college at a party, I'm trying to have a deep conversation, and someone's like, why are we talking about this right now? And it's just like, well, honestly, it's just the only conversations I know how to have.
Right.
But you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, we go below the surface, bro. Like again, no judgments, but I want to talk more than just the weather, right? I want to talk about just like, hey, how, other things, just sports and all that is cool, but let's go below the surface. Let's go, a little deeper here. So
yes, have a memorable conversation, or that's. I mean, I like to think that there's so many people in the world that it's nice to think that a good conversation can leave an impact, or a memory.
Right.
But no, I hear you. And honestly, bro, I just met you too, but learning about what you're about, I think will give your kid an interesting experience growing up. I can't say the same for my folks, and for a lot of people, since in general it doesn't seem like people like having these conversations or having that open mind and perspective and ear. So I think for a kid, I think there's some kids out there that I've talked to where they tell me what their parents are like, and they're like, oh yeah, I can tell what's rubbed off on you and what hasn't. But definitely appreciate the kids where I feel like they know a little bit more who they are, and they're comfortable embracing that character, who they are, and that's when I get curious. I'm like, oh, what are your parents like? And then they tell me, I'm like, oh, that's dope. That they really helped you out, or was with you as you were discovering this thing, being in your formative years. It's pretty big. I know for me, I feel like my self-identity and stuff didn't come till like my late 20s and early 30s, and then now it's just like really embracing that. And when I see a young person or be already there, I'm like, dude, we gotta like uplift, like we gotta push you further, because you already got it. And a lot of people take time to realize those things.
All right.
Second question for you, Jason, is how would you like to be honored? If there was a way that we could express your energy, right? Let's say you move far away, your friends, it's your birthday, they're like, yo, we got to do something for Jason. What would you like them to do?
Well, I don't know if you ever heard of the 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. Mine is one of them is words of affirmation. So, I gifts and all that's cool. Like, I think we all have a little bit of the 5 love languages in us, but I think sometimes, especially again, growing up without a pops, is just a little appreciation here and there. Not like, like tooting my horn, but sometimes we all just want to know that what we're doing is helping. Right. And I think sometimes in the space, in the pod space, in the content space, we can put out so much positive energy there, and, it'll get a like here, it'll get a like there, maybe one comment. But sometimes when you get that random person being like, yo, this really helped me today, or, hey, you know what I mean? Like this, I was having some dark days, but just listening to what you said or this message really uplifted me. And I think that's what keeps my fuel and keeps my fire going, is that if I put something good out there, something that truly helps you, I want to know about it, because that way I can keep going to help keep providing that energy and that light out there, right? But sometimes I think when we are just going through the throes of life, we there's a saying that says, when what you appreciate appreciates, right? So what you appreciate appreciates, just like money, right? You put it in there, it compounds and everything. So I guess to answer your question, the way I'd be honored, just uh, when I put out energy, I want to receive that energy, right? So just, giving a hug, give a hug back, kind of love, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
I got you. I got you. That's interesting, and I do have a follow-up for you, but we'll get there. I want to give you the last question of the warm-up, because I don't want to get too deep in the warm-up. I always have a hard time, but we just roll with it. My last question for you in the warm-up, Jason, is how well do you know yourself?
Oof. In my 20s, not at all, right? But I think as I've got a lot into self-development, like, I don't know if you can see here, I got over like 400 books, 400 all here, just learning throughout the years. And I think I'm very self-aware to a point where I'm hyper vigilant and hyper aware, like always looking over my shoulder. But I think I know myself pretty well now these days, and even more so now being dad. So yeah, Hundo P.
Well, what would you recommend to read for now? Or like, yeah, if there's any out of those 400, if what's one that, and you could just make it to me, like just knowing the kind of person I am with between these 15 minutes. What would you recommend to me, man?
Definitely The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz.
Sure.
The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Anything Tony Robbins or Brene Brown. There's a lot, bro, but those are some recommendations for sure.
What would you say? I read The Alchemist a long time ago, Four Agreements a long time ago, but I still remember the four. For Alchemist though, and I think the title always throws me off, but what was the message that you got out of that?
As cliche as it is, it's all about the journey. You know what I mean? And I actually was watching, what was her name? The basketball player. She retired. She was on the WNBA.
Not Candace Parker, no.
Candace Parker.
Oh, okay, for sure.
Yeah, and she said she rereads it every year, and it hits differently every year. And I said, oh man, I gotta actually revisit this to see where I am in my life, right? Because it's all about change. Alchemy is all about, the chemical and the change and everything throughout the journey and through life. And I think to me, it's just that, like, what you learn about yourself through different stages, right? When we were in our teens, when we were in our 20s, and now that, in our 30s, me about to change into the next chapter into my 40s, what was 30s all about, right? So it's just all about the journey and how we evolve and grow.
I hear that. I have to reread it again too, because I definitely do that with TV shows. But I need to read more. So I'll check out The Alchemist again, and I probably will get new, different messages and different, reflections on it. But for sure. All right, dog. One last thing. What would you say is the last time you surprised yourself, when you didn't think that that's who you were or was a part of you, but you were like, oh shit, that's me. That's, So yeah, what's the last thing that surprised you about yourself?
So for my hear from that is like, oh man, I didn't know I was capable of XYZ, right? Is that what kind of?
Yeah.
Oh, honestly, I think just, again, being a pops, man, being a dad now, like, I've grew up the youngest of 14 grandchildren, helped raise my little nieces and nephews. Like, I've always wanted to be a pops. And then when I'm actually in the throes of being a pops now, I'm like, all this work that I did on myself, patience, throw that out the window. You know what I mean? I threw that out the window, and I had to relearn what patience was. So I think just like sometimes my wife and I will look at each other when our son's sleeping and be like, we'll plop down on the couch and be like, man, we're doing it. You know what I mean? And I think that's the beauty, is just like, wow, you really are capable of so much. And if you just got out of your own way and your own head, and I think every day growing as he's growing, learning myself just as a man, as again, everything that I am in my life. So yeah.
I got you, dog. I appreciate that. Let's jump into the next stage, which is the icebreaker. All right, so here in the icebreaker, you will have 34 seconds to do the icebreaker. What would you like to do? A word association or a this or that?
Oh man, can you clarify what's a word association? Just
I give you one word and you tell me the first thought that comes up.
okay. Let's do that.
Okay, I got you. And just a heads up, I will, follow up on a couple answers after the 34 seconds is over.
Okay.
Here we go. In 3, 2, 1, culture.
Positivity.
Freedom.
Oh man, justice.
Ghosts.
Casper.
Home.
The heart.
Easy.
Never.
Appreciate.
Always.
Regret.
I have lots. That's not
Crazy.
my mind.
Okay. I like that. Let's change that. Crazy. You went to mind. Why did your mind come up for you?
Just sometimes, bro, I can't like the stupid stuff that I've done, throughout my life. I'm like, I'm crazy to have done that. Like, I have time for a quick little answer, or a quick little follow up on that.
Oh yeah, you got time.
Yeah. So, quick little story. In 2019, my wifey and our besties went to Zion National Park, right? And there's this thing called the fiery furnace, right? And you're supposed to essentially follow these arrows out through to get yourself out. Well, we got lost, and me being the adventurous Gryffindor type that I am, I was climbing these like 6-story rocks, bro. And I was like, this is the way out. And they're like, this is not the way out. Get your ass down from there. And like one little slip, I would have probably fell to my death. But we were so desperate to get out of there that I was climbing these rocks in the dang Utah Valley, bro, just trying to get us out of there because we're that desperate. But I'm crazy like that, man.
You find solutions that aren't, very, what's it called? It isn't, I'm trying to find the word, but I see what you're talking about. Did you end up finding, I guess, the right way to get out?
Well, like we were running out of water. It was a very hot day, and we were like, they said if you get lost, it'll probably take them like 12 hours to find you. And we started to panic because we had no snacks, we had nothing to eat, and eventually we found like another group came, and we're like, oh my god, where'd you come from? They're like, oh, you just missed the arrow. And we took some steps back, and there it was, the little arrow. It was like camouflaged on the wall. Go this way, and we were like, are you kidding me? So we probably just made a little slight turn, and that led us to like 4 hours of getting lost.
That is bananas, dude.
Right. Crazy.
Almost, yeah, like how long were you guys lost for, would you say? Like
probably like 6 hours, bro.
Holy crap. For 6 hours, y'all thought that was it, and y'all was just hoping for somebody to come. Oh my god.
Right.
No reception? No nothing?
No reception, no nothing. Like when they actually, they have you go to this little training. They're like, all right, if you get bit by a snake, we may not get to you right away. And they give you all these like warnings, right? So they just said, do not get lost. Well, we got lost. And we're sipping our Camelbacks, no more water. We're like, when you sip through a straw and it's like, oh my, what do we do? Just save water. Everyone sip a little bit of each other's.
Dude, so survivalist instincts come out for sure.
Wild.
Did you guys end up getting dinner for the folks that came and like saw you guys?
No, I mean they were like it was like a couple. They just like leisurely walking by. They left, so they were out of sight already. But yeah, we definitely just like all sat there. Once we finally got out, we're like, oh my gosh, and still we talk about it to this day.
That's some guardian angels out there, man. If they're listening to this, they just know how much.
Right.
Do you remember what you said for freedom? I'm losing that one.
Yeah. Freedom, justice. Yeah.
Justice. I wish I had more like scenarios for you, but as far as justice in today's day and age, and I guess even more localized within our country. Where are we at with that? Like, where do you think, how much justice do we have?
I mean, I don't want to, in all respects, like, I don't watch the news as much as I should, right? Just because I try to protect my energy, protect my orbit, right? And, to each their own. People need to be in tune with the news and everything that's going on. But the more you hear, the more heartbreak you hear. I just like it, to the fact that it feels like we're going backwards is really heartbreaking. You know what I mean? And so my own personal way of contributing to the world is, I know I can't fix things on a bigger scale, unless I'm in those political figures and this and that, organization or whatever. But I just try every single day through my own way of pouring, again, that energy out, whether it's holding a door open, teaching my son the right way of things, right? If my little niece or nephew does something I feel is out of pocket, correcting it in the moment, right? So I think just finding ways to make an impact in the world that are in your control, and then everything else is just one of those, you just pray and you give positive thoughts to the world and hope that some change can happen, but control what you can, right?
No doubt. I'm with you there 100%. I have, we were talking about jobs. I've been applying, and I told myself I wouldn't be serious about a job unless I read a cover letter. And in my cover letters, I like to be really authentic to who I am and, what I'm about. So I remember I wrote it out. I had my supervisor now kind of go over it and give me feedback. And she was like, you wrote something in here that said like, oh, this next role would help you with your mission, but you never say what your mission is. And I'm like, okay, let me think about that. I think I try to keep things simple too. I don't try to find 100 words to say something I can say in like 5 words. So my mission ended up being like change the world. And I think ever since I was a kid, that's always been a thing. Of course, been inspired by my heroes, superheroes, and all these things out there. But I think for me, it was just saying like, I want to do something that helps the world in some way. And I think growing up, that the feeling of like, oh, I'm gonna change the world hasn't been in that grand scale. Like I'm starting to realize it's not as realistic as I once thought it was as a kid. So everything's been a lot more focused and individualized, I would say. And that's why I think, working at the high school, working with kids, it really helps me fulfill that mission, because I'm working one-on-one where I think that's where the most change can come from. And I don't know, out of all these kids, who's going to be one, maybe it's more than one, but they all kind of get on the same page as where I'm at, where honestly, when it comes to justice, there's a lot of ways to define that, and I don't think I can even give you a good answer or an answer for that I feel comfortable with. But I do think things in the world and life and universe is balanced. A lot of things are balanced out, right? There's going to be bad with the good, and vice versa. With the work I do, and even just the change the world like mantra and mission, I just want to push that needle a little bit more to the good, right? And for me, I accomplished that through this podcast, through my work, and I feel, I wouldn't say satisfied, but I do feel comfortable knowing that this is good for me every day. Jumping a lot of jobs kind of made me realize how much I really hated not feeling like my time was productive. I can't just, I used to drive a lot. I used to be in logistics, warehouses, and even office work and stuff. And I'm like, damn, like I can't imagine myself being here 40 hours a day and just doing this. Like I can talk to my coworkers, I can be a positive person in their life, but it didn't feel like it was enough. But yeah, just wanted to share that with you. Is there any like platitudes? This is a new one, and for this icebreaker, I've been thinking about switching it up where I have a bunch of sayings, and like could be cliche or not, but they're popular. But for you, is there one that comes to mind when I ask? Is there one that you just don't agree with as much anymore as a kid, like when you were young to when you're older?
I can't think of that at the moment, but I do know some that I do stand on. I do stand by a few that are like my mantras. You know what I mean?
What's one that you stand on for sure?
I stand on The Only Way Is Through by Robert Frost, right? They talk about like when you go through the forest, you can't go around it, you can't go through the side. The only way through life is through. And I think that is so powerful through anything: healing, trauma, breakups, getting over depression or getting through depression. Let me rephrase that, right? I'm going to be very mindful because you don't just get over something. So The Only Way Is Through. I love that. And then One Day or Day One, you decide. And I think that is one of them decisions where, we have the choice to, all right, I'll do it later, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow. And then years later, we have regrets. And that's a life I don't want to live. I've lived that kind of life, and I definitely don't want to live that anymore. So, yeah.
I hear that, dog. I hear that. Yeah, I think it's super, like, you can definitely apply that to a lot of aspects of life, both of those. And yeah, for sure, that's where my mind's at as far as the only way is go through the tough times. For myself, and for the people I love, it's very much just like just push through. And as a kid, for me, I don't know if this is the same for you, but I used to get mad anxiety the day before the first day of school. Like, the summer's over, we're about to go in, but I would be like, I know I was an overachiever. I tried to, get straight A's and whatnot. So that day before first day of school, I'd always be like, damn, I forgot everything. I'm not going to do as good and all that stuff. But the only thing that calmed me down was like, look, you're going to be in class, you pay attention, you do the work, everything's going to be fine. Like, and that's what I had to tell myself to, like, just calm down and be able to go to school. And everything was fine year after year. But that made me realize how, as an adult, I don't feel like there's no first day of school. It's just like every day is life. Every day is, figuring out something. And it's interesting to me that I don't have that marker to make me feel that way. But yeah, I got you.
Yeah, can I add on that quick note of, I feel that too, like new kicks, new binders, new everything. You got to take the school picture or whatnot. And, that as someone who, I consider myself a loner in school, you know what I mean? Like, especially like people are like, oh yeah, I love school. For me personally, like, all the years of my school were the toughest times of my life. And I think, thinking now back to a lot of the times at school, we want to fit in, the quote fit in. If that's something I can give the next generation, I don't know if I'm flipping too ahead of conversation, but learning as you get older to really be yourself is the best way, in my opinion, to, we all want to fit in. We want to be accepted. We want to belong. But in reality, we belong to, staying true to ourselves. You know what I mean? And I think that's where the hardest thing, where we don't know when we're younger, we're so naive to the fact that, like, we want to be able to fit in with the crowd and have the coolest kicks and all that stuff. So just saying, being yourself, right? If I wish I would have known that as my little young one, I would tell time travel and be like, yo, little Jason, just be yourself, homie. Everything's going to be all right.
No, I hear that, man. I think, how do we get a young person to understand who they are? Or, like, because when I tell that to a kid, they're like, okay, cool, but I don't even know what that means. Or, like, I don't know what being myself is, right? And I'm not a parent. I'd like to think if I was, and at some point through my child's development, I'm gonna be like, okay, we're gonna go try all these things, and you can tell me where you feel most comfortable at, and then maybe from there we can kind of like build upon that, right? I was fortunate enough to have parents who did allow me to do a lot of things, but I don't think the realization of, like, oh, he actually really likes that, and we should keep putting him in those kind of programs and get him in, versus, like, oh, you're gonna do sports, or you're gonna be a lawyer, or whatever it is. So yeah, I think that's the only difference for me. I help kids try to get jobs, and a lot of times kids are like, I don't know what I want to do, and I'm like, that's fine. Like, you just gotta go try it. Like, okay, you don't like working at Target, you don't like working at Century Theaters, you don't like working at a middle school watching over kids, but at least now and then when you get to my age, and hopefully even earlier than that, you're gonna recognize that about yourself and be like, okay. And have you heard of the 9 types of intelligence? You seen that chart before?
I think so, but if refresh my memory for that a little bit.
I don't have it like off the top of my head, but for sure it just showed that, like, as far as being a genius or being smart, we all have something that we naturally go to or are gifted in. But what is it that we're paying attention to? So I know some of them was like, are you a naturalist? Are you body kinesthetic? Are you interpersonal or intra or interpersonal? Like, and I feel like for us, we're in that interpersonal and maybe intra. But yeah, but that's not stuff that we would have realized as a kid. Like, oh, I actually do care about what's happening with people, and like that's what really gets me connected or feel alive. Because in school it's very more like by the books. You're more mathematical, cool. If you're more linguistic, cool. But so there's parts of a kid, or parts that kids don't know about or even are aware to look for, or understand about themselves. But yeah, just wanted to bring that up as well.
A quick little tip. I just want to make sure, is it me? I had a little scratching. Is that me? I just want to make sure like my audio's not.
It might be. You hear like a shh thing, or
like, yeah, a little like here and there, a little.
Ooh, interesting. I do not hear that.
Okay.
And I'm not sure why you might be hearing it. But honestly, if I look back at this video and hear stuff and it's really terrible, I might just have to hit you up again, man. If you
no worries. Yeah, for sure.
But all right, we made it to the main meat of the podcast, where I'm gonna pull up the wheel of fate and I'm gonna give it a spin, and then whichever number it lands on, feel free to also say pass if it feels a little too personal or too deep. But your first question is gonna be, what does being successful mean to you, man?
Wow. Okay. I was actually asked this a lot lately. Presence, just being present.
Well,
here, let me take this off.
I got you.
Can you hear me now?
I hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, it's weird. It's scratching. So let me see what's going on. Okay.
I mean, shoot, okay. It might be my mic too, but
yeah, I hear it when you speak. Let's see.
I'm gonna turn off my mic and turn it back on.
It just started recently. Yeah.
Oh, it just started recently. I gotcha.
Yeah, it just started maybe in the last few minutes, because the whole convo was going, and then I was like, oh, what's that scratching? But yeah, no worries.
All right. We'll see. Let me know if it's really bothersome. But you said presence for success.
Presence. Yeah.
Well, yeah. How do those two ideas correlate? Because I don't think a lot of people would say that.
I mean, this may sound biased, but I've been doing my own thing for the past 5 years. I left the 9-to-5 to pursue my own thing, just so that I can have the freedom to be available and as well as be present to everything. And I say that because losing my pops young, who worked himself to the ground, which led to a lot of unhealthy behaviors, mainly alcoholism, and that led to probably his cancer. He was only 51, right? And I saw how when you make a job your life and you don't take care of yourself, especially as a man, it can lead to some disastrous life effects. And I started to go down that route. I was right out of college, hospitality. I was working at a hotel, 16-hour days, 6 days a week, not seeing my family, not seeing my friends. And then I would hear year after year, oh, you remember this party, and you remember his baptism, and I was like, I wasn't there, I was working. And at some point I got to my life where I said, I'm thankful I was young enough to realize that, but I said, I do not want this to be my life, where I get to my 60s and 70s, how society is like, you work, you get a job, and then you retire, you're too old to travel. So I've been on this mission to create a life designed to where I can be around. I'm a stay-at-home dad right now, and have been for the past year and a half. Thanks to wifey for taking care of us in that aspect, but doing my own thing. But mainly just successful means being able to know that I was there at every game, I was there at every party, because life is short, you know what I'm saying? And we know that life is so short, and no one's ever going to remember how much overtime you put in. No one's ever going to remember how many accolades and all that when at the end of your life. Which is also, side note, that's another book I recommend, Top 5 Regrets of the Dying by Bronnie Ware. That book will change your perspective about, damn, like real life stories of, a quick little note about that is this lady saw thousands of patients, and 5 regrets that were recurring from all these people that were at the end of their life. And one of them was like, I wish I let myself be happier. I wish I didn't work so hard. I wish I lived a life true to myself, not what others expected of me. I wish I had the courage to express myself. And I think I said, I wish I let myself be happy or something like that. But mainly just that book, along with my philosophy of life, just being present, you know what I mean? Just being able to be there for anything and everything.
No, I hear that. I know you see me probably paused right now. Let me see if I could fix that. I don't think it's gonna work that easy. But no, man, I think, you know, especially even with this podcast, I talked to a bunch of folks and they all get very similar questions. In a way, I feel like it's a similar survey to that lady that talked to a lot of folks, you know, in their transitional bed. But nah, I when you mention those things, I almost want to ask folks, like, what was the life that you feel like you could have led versus the one that, you know, you're at? Like, it just brings up more questions for me. And someone had told me, like, why don't I bring this to a senior home and like try to like have these conversations with a bunch of older folks? And I'm like, you know what, you're right. I need to figure that out, because I think, you know, I've been into a couple spaces last year where I did see a lot of, you know, older folks. Man, they're just chilling, and it doesn't feel like they're happy about it. Like they're looking for connection. There's a lot of opportunities out there to make those things happen, but it just hasn't gone there. But no, being present, I see now, or I understand now how that can mean being successful. Because honestly, if I think about my life, I'm probably 50% successful in that regard. And I have missed a lot of things that I regret, because a lot of kids are are a lot older now. And I don't know them that well. They don't know me that well, even though, you know, there's love there. It just sucks that there was so much of their life that I just wasn't present for. So definitely unsuccessful in that way. Give me one moment. I'm going to see if I can reset this camera and hopefully it jumps back on.
Yeah, the audio's better. That's for sure.
No, maybe there's something to it. Let me see if I can figure this out. Better? I'm back?
Yep.
All right, cool.
Yes, sir.
Awesome, man. Here we go with another question from the wheel. Your next question will be, how do you recharge, dog? Like, I have a guess, but you could tell me.
Shoot. I'm curious how your guess is first. No, different ways, you know, like being, my wife and I are very supportive of each other. Like, I love getting my haircuts, right? So like taking my 1 hour, we have like the take your hour, like for her yesterday, it was a 3-hour haircut. You know what I mean? Like, cause women, they cut, they curl, they color, whatever. But no, just how do I recharge? I love my books. I love sometimes I'll even ask wifey, you know, especially being all day home with our son, be like, hey, can I go to the office? This is actually, we live in a 2-bedroom, so this is his room / guest room / office. So like life goals, I want to have an office someday, but I'll sneak away just to read, to meditate. My runs in the morning, as weird as it sounds, like I recharge by 5 a.m. runs by myself in the cold, in the stillness, when it's still dark, with my little light vest on. That's how I recharge my battery, is just my me time. And I think that's very important for encourage for anybody is whatever works for them to recharge, because we're in this loop of go, 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 go. And yes, we may feel busy, but are we productive, right? And busy doesn't just mean like you're doing things to fill off your checklist. And if you're not taking the proper self-care, that's one thing I also, I try my best to have self-care, like massages. I love massages. That's how I recharge as well. So self-care, straight up self-care, bro.
I hear that. Books, running, massages, and some me time, right? Or like, you know, just solo time. I hear that, man. And I can't imagine how hard it might be to have that, even just being a father, right? Like, it almost feels, in my mind, and maybe I'm just saying this because I don't have a kid, but it feels impossible. I think a big reason why for me the whole weight and push is because I'm thinking to myself like, nah, you know, for me, I want to change the world, and I almost don't feel like I can accomplish that, knowing that I would want to give it my all to my kid as well. And I don't know. I think for me at this point, it just feels like it's too big to balance or manage. But again, a lot of people tell me like, dude, you're overthinking it. When it happens, you're gonna figure it out and all that stuff. So I think that's just where I'm at with it. But yeah, so kudos to you, man, like for working that into your life. Running, I do want to ask, 'cause you are the running Zen, dog. When did that start for you? Like, how long have you been doing it for? And yeah, let's start there.
So I started back in 2009. So if you see, right here, you see here a bunch of these medals here, marathons, half marathons, 5Ks, 10Ks, all that. It started in 2009 when, my pops passed in 2008, and I started running in 2009 because, that whole year, as it would for anybody, I'm sure was hell, right? The first year losing someone especially you love, especially a parent, I was an alcoholic too, drug addict, addict of many things, but I needed something to find, partying, going to raves and all that. But I needed to do something that I felt would help me. Running saved my life, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally as well. And so ever since then, I've been addicted, bro. Like just going to these races, going to these marathons, seeing people, connecting with people, seeing people in wheelchairs, seeing people with one leg or no legs still doing races. Like that lights me up, bro. Just the fact that, again, we're so capable of doing so many things. And I don't run as vigorously as I should. However, I did sign up for my first 52-mile ultra marathon, which is in July in San Francisco. I haven't started training as much as I should, but I did that because that crazy mind of mine, right? I did that to get out of my complacency. And so that's where it all started. And I'm trying to get more people to run with me, but apparently running isn't the thing people like to do.
I can't say it. It feels like everybody's running on my feed and algorithm, right? Like there's a lot of running clubs that pop up. 52 miles, dog. I think you can handle it. It sounds like you've been doing it for years. You got the experience, and I'm sure you know how to like handle what's it called? How you manage your energy and time in a race like that. I don't even say it's a race, right? It's just for a lot of folks, I feel like marathons are personal challenges. So even just if it's just beating you, right? If you're just you against yourself. A long time ago, I want to say 2013, 2014, I did a half marathon, the San Francisco one. And I thought that was a huge thing for me already. I was like, cool. I can't believe I'm gonna do, what was it, 23 miles or 13 miles, right, for a half?
13.1, yeah.
Yeah. So I remember starting in Barcadero and finished in Golden Gate Park, which was like, damn, I did it. And it was my first one and only. I made this mistake, and I don't know if you've ever had a mistake like this running all the marathons you have, but I went there, I had my like shoestring backpack, and I was like, okay, someone was like, oh, you got to leave that with somebody that's going to bring it to the finish line. And I didn't find that person in time. So I just ended up wearing the shoestring backpack the whole time.
It was like flapping on you like this.
Dude,
like...
yeah. And I was like, I really messed it up for myself. And one thing that I'm a person that I feel like is very in my routine. There's certain times that I use the restroom, and so like I was worried about that too. But luckily there was some pit stops. I just remember getting to the Golden Gate Bridge one, and it was like, oh, they told us it's gonna be at the end, and so I just had to like make sure I could make it all the way there. I remember my legs just being super jelly afterwards. Do you still get that? Are your legs? Or you just like you're cool now?
Well, like I said, I did it more religiously throughout my 20s, early and 30s, but like
Mm.
I average like maybe one race a year now, which I want to get back into it, right? There's one thing that just truly lights you back up. And I've done races where I didn't train at all. And that was like one of the biggest mistakes ever because you're hurting so bad, right? So now that I'm turning 40, like mentally, I know I'm going to be there. Like my mind is probably, people have told me to, is my biggest asset, my biggest weapon. Um, but if I were to say like my body, I don't know how my body's going to be turning 40. You know what I mean? And that's the worst thing that I fear. I've had injuries in football in high school and all that, but things that I fear like ACL, Achilles, those scare the hell out of me. So I know I definitely got to make it, take it the right way as July approaches. And either if July comes, I know my body's not up to it. I just gotta like put my pride aside and say, hey, I'm just gonna have to suck up this money and that I paid and maybe try again next year, or ramp it up starting soon or sooner than later. It's just no excuses. It's hard with a kid when you want to get up to run, but yet you're sleeping like 4 hours a night, 3 hours a night. So all that balancing act, like you said, it's just trying to balance everything. And there's some mornings where I'm up and I'm crushing it, and there's some mornings I'm like, I can't get up.
Yeah. Well, one thing I feel like I've grown uncomfortable doing is saying I'm tired with people who are parents. They're nice about it. They're like, oh yeah, you're tired. But it always comes back to like, well, you don't know what tired is, dog. Not until you're in it, which is valid. That is very valid. But nah, I gotta ask you, what do you listen to? Are you listening to anything as you're running, or are you just like, let me be present and in nature? And yeah, so how do you usually like attack that?
Well, my name might be a giveaway now, you know what I mean? But so I do both. People actually ask me that question a lot, and I'm not a guru by any chance, right? But I do sometimes, like when it comes to races, I'll listen to like podcasts, like, or I'll listen to audiobook, right? But then when my headphones die, that's like the rest. I think I was in San Antonio when I ran the San Antonio Marathon. I was listening to David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me audiobook, and I got like halfway through it, and then my headphones died, and I was still like 14 miles out, and I was like, I guess I'm running the rest of this without any music or headphones. Thankfully on the course there's always like DJs and whatnot here and there playing music, but ever since that moment I taught myself to run with no music. And I'll still run here and there when I need it, but in the morning, bro, that 5 a.m. stillness, 6 a.m. stillness with the crows and the birds, and something about like the shh, the whistling of the air is just so, I can't even put a word to it right now. You know what I'm saying? It's just so euphoric. It's so euphoric.
I gotta try it, man. Let's see what I can do this year. But yeah, I like the idea. And that was me when I was running. I also have when you said crazy earlier, for you said your mind, and you talked about being adventurous and just going out there. I think the way people have told me about that about myself, I'm reckless. Like I'll definitely just jump into the ocean without even knowing what's down there. But yeah, so with the marathons and stuff, I want to try running again. I haven't done it in a while. I've had a lot of injuries, like just growing up. So in my mind, I'm always telling myself, oh, the elliptical's better because it's going to be better for your knees. But man, I do miss that feeling. And that was such a feeling of accomplishment for me. I've always been an overweight person. I think I've gotten better at it as I've gotten older. But yeah, in my mind, it's always like, it's definitely defeating me. I'm in competition with myself, and that's the only thing that in my mind when I run usually. And we'll see if I get back there. I'm a smoker, so I know my lungs are not as strong as they used to be. I could definitely feel it now. So it's just stuff I got to work on my own.
One day or day one, bro.
I hear you. When's your ultra marathon?
July 26th, 27th.
Okay. You got time.
Yeah.
And I was going to tell you, maybe I'll join you for that, but I don't think I'll be ready for ultra. But after that, if you happen to do a marathon, I think I could be ready for that. So let's keep in touch for that. That'd be cool to get connected on. And, you know, you probably beat me. Don't worry about me. I'll make it. But, you know, just so you won't have to do it solo. And it'll be a good challenge for me too. If it's around here in the Bay Area, I think we can make it happen.
Yeah, I actually love running with people, bro. I hate running by myself, to be honest, but I do it. You know what I mean? I wish I had more people to do it with. And I'm like, hey, whenever you're ready to run your first one, let me know. I got you. You know, so
you got another person saying that they will, and you know, I hope to follow through. I'll check in with you after your ultra and see how you're feeling. Have you ever done one of those like what's it called, like Spartan races or Tough Mudder? Have you done one of those yet?
I've done both. Yep.
Oh, similar, or one's better than the other? If a person was going to sign up, which one should they do?
Spartan is more individualistic. Like, you're kind of on your own, because if you mess up on one of the obstacles, you're doing 25 burpees, right? Tough Mudder is a little bit more camaraderie. Like, I seen that in Spartan Beasts, like people helping each other, but I did it with a team. I did Tough Mudder with Tough Mudder in a team in Tahoe. So they're more on that team level, right? As opposed to Spartan Beasts is more of like you individual, like, yeah, there are people going to help each other, but a little bit more, they're more out for themselves, if that makes sense.
I had no idea. I didn't know there was that difference in there. Interesting. So yeah, it sounds like I'll try Tough Mudder first, and maybe try to get a few people together to do it, and that would be an interesting challenge. For sure. I think we'll do. Do you have a hard out? Well, I guess it's 7:30 now, but
not at all. I'm here. I'm chilling.
Appreciate that, man. I'll give one more spin to the Wheel of Fate, and then we'll move on to the next stage after that. Let's see. Can you see it? Like, how well do you see these questions?
No, I see it perfect. Yeah, I see it perfect.
For sure. You got number 14. What are 3 qualities you admire in others?
Like, what I would hope to... Can you clarify that a little? Like,
yeah. I think, like, even earlier when you talk about crazy mind, right? How do you, like, recognize that? I think I definitely appreciate it, and I feel drawn to, someone like yourself who says, yeah, I'm crazy too. So I think that's a quality that I admire in people. Like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I definitely admire humility, right? Someone who's humble, and I'm not about the ego. I'm all about that humility, right? And just learning to, so humility is one. Kindness. I think I just continue, people who are kind, right? That positive energy. I try to live as much as a toxic free, drama free. If any of that comes into my orbit, I always have this, there's like a metaphorical orbit that we all have. And if any of that negative energy tries to penetrate that force field, I'm like, nope, I gotta keep that energy away from me. And hence why I was saying I don't really watch the news. I curate my algorithm. I only keep positive people and positive vibes around me. And I say that because I'm not saying I'm not open to helping people who are negative, but I've had such a life where I've tried to help people where you lead the horse to the water and they don't drink it, and you try over and over and over, and that leads you to be depleted yourself, right? I mean, so definitely people who are kind, and then learners, someone who's constantly learning and working on themselves. There's that saying where they're 60 years old, but they peaked at 20. And I was like, oh, it took me a while to think about what that means, but you can tell when there's some people who are like, I'm stuck in my ways. I don't want to change. I'm, even Filipinos, my aunties and uncles. I hate to say that. I hate to put that on blast, but a lot of them are such in that negative mind, that negative way of thinking, or that old school way of thinking. And I'm like, auntie, uncle, you can't say that in these days, or no, that's not appropriate. You know what I mean? And at some point, you give them grace, and then after they show you a few times, you're like, you know what? No, right? So definitely someone who's always working on himself.
I got you, dog. Yeah, that growing up thing, man, it's interesting because sometimes it's not even something that you realize or something I realize. I consider myself somebody who likes to be updated or up to date with like latest technology and all this stuff. I see what AI is doing. I think there's parts of it where I'm like, okay, let me find out what this is about or what does this do. And then there's a whole, I would say that's like 10% of whatever I would say technology is offering us now. And then the 90%, I'm just like, I'm cool with that. Like I know how to navigate. I know what to do without using those things. And then I'm trying to catch myself because I don't want to be like that. I want to understand these new things because one, I'll get to a point where I almost feel like, oh, now I'm really left out or I'm too old to even catch on anymore. But even for I would say you talk about your aunties and uncles. I would say for my pops, right? Like sometimes he might say something that isn't as appropriate as it once was. And I'm just like, ooh. And it's interesting to see younger folks see older folks and they don't excuse them, but there's almost like this understanding of like, oh, I understand how you're thinking. I know, it seems like I know, what time you were from. So it's really brushed off. And I guess that's a fortunate thing or something that isn't as negative, that people are still willing to understand where people are coming from, especially if it's offensive to me. But I'm like, oh, maybe they didn't mean it that way. But it isn't really addressed. And it's tough when I try to address it with my pops. It's kind of like, for him, it's like, oh, you don't understand me or you don't understand my culture. You don't understand where I'm from, my generation. And then, but at least it doesn't, for me and him, I wouldn't fight him on that. It's just more like, yeah, I come from a very understanding place. I'm just letting you know if people come look at you sideways or like they have a response that's pretty aggressive. Well, that's because of X, Y, and Z. When I hear that, let us. I don't know. Yeah, any final thoughts for that? Or?
Yeah, I think that you try to recommend therapy to old school folks. They're not trying to hear it. I know that for sure. They're like, "What's therapy?" Like, I actually had an aunt recently. I'm not gonna name names, but she said, oh, when you tried to like explain something, she's like, she admittedly said, well, I'm stuck in my ways and this is who I am. And I said that, dang, it sucks to hear, but I love you, but I will love you from afar. And that's what you got to just keep it moving, man. So yeah.
And it's tough, man. It is tough. I know I've had some family members tell me like, oh, you should cut off toxic family members from your life and things like that. And I just haven't gotten to that point where I feel comfortable doing that. I feel like, I gotta be open. I gotta be like available. I gotta be, receptive or responsive. When I know a lot of folks just don't deal with that anymore. I'm like, nah, man, like that's old school way of thinking, or that's different. I know people have told me like, we're not in the Philippines, man. You don't gotta do what the Philippines does. And I'm like, it's a easier said than done. And I think for me, at some point in my own reflection, I'll have to, really understand why. I might just bring that up to my therapist in a couple weeks, just to see if there's anything there that I'm not seeing.
Boundaries, bro. Boundaries.
I'm terrible, dog. I am terrible. Yeah, not even at work. One of my coworkers was like, I've been talking about this new job. It's been a big thing. She was approached by someone else that was like, hey, would you want this position? And she did me a solid. She was definitely like, nah, Jen should be the dude. And then one of the questions was like, what's he like working on projects? And then she told me like, in all honesty, and she was telling me this, Jan's the kind of dude that you gotta like force yourself to help, like, because he will do it by himself and he won't tell anybody he's doing it. And yeah, so boundaries is a tough thing for me, man. I don't think I've actually really know what that is for myself. Like, I'm trying to think about it. But I think that comes a lot with maybe self-esteem and my ego and all these things. Like, am I helping out because I really want to help out, or am I doing it because I want to be seen a certain way? Stuff that, like, I try to, come to peace with myself. I think the thought that comes for me is, what is truly the purpose, and am I comfortable with that? Because if I am, then no matter what other people say, then I should be okay, right? Like, because they don't know, and I don't really feel like explaining all the time why I do things. But yeah, that's what I tell even kids. Like, look, they like, oh, I don't want to. You ever watch the show called Community?
Wifey did, but I didn't watch Community. Yeah.
In the very first episode, there's this thing where one of the characters asks another character, is like, hey, should I continue to wear my varsity jacket? Because if I do, then if I wear it, then those people are going to think this way. Or if I don't wear it, those people are going to think this way. And the character was like, well, that's the problem. You're thinking about those people. Like, well, how do you feel about wearing the jacket, And I'm like, word. And that kind of like stuck with me in that way. Good show though. Shout out to Community. All right, dog. I think we got to move over to the next stage, which is it's going to be a solo for you. It's called the 34th mantra. All right. The mantra goes, I am, I can, I will. So for you, how would you fill out that phrase? I am blank, I can blank, I will blank. You could take a minute if you want.
Does that have to be one word answers, or just like fill in the blank?
Fill in the blank. Could be a phrase, could be like anything that comes to mind, man.
So I am, I can, I will.
I am, I can, I will.
I am a leader. I can do anything I set my mind to. I will get through this.
Appreciate that, man. So now you have that little soundbite. Maybe one day it'll come in handy. But that is just for you, Cool. Well, we made it, dog, to the final stage of the podcast, the closeout questions. Let me see if I have this ready. Actually, I don't. It's been such a long time. Actually, give me 1 second. I'm going to grab this notebook.
Yep.
Did find it. All right. So this question is from my previous guest. Shout out to Mr. Holmes. I almost couldn't find your question, but I found it. And I think for you talked about vulnerability, especially just being vulnerable almost at all times. Mr. Holmes' question for you is, when was the last time you were publicly vulnerable?
When was the last time I was publicly vulnerable? Oh, okay. I mean, it's kind of a cop-out, but I post things on social media all the time. I post my videos. I'm very open about my life. Like, for example, I mentioned how wifey and I were working on kid number 2 and the process that goes through that, and how individually are we doing what we can to work on ourselves to contribute to the greater whole of that, beautiful piece. But yeah, I think I'm vulnerable every single day, putting myself out there on social media. But if you want a more general answer, I say yesterday. Yesterday when, it has a story that goes along with it, but I could leave that for another time.
For sure. I appreciate that. And I will say, being on social media, that's very vulnerable, like, I know I've always had thoughts about doing it. I feel like I've had attempts every once in a while. I remember 10 years ago, I used to post like motivational quotes and stuff. And how many of those are out there, especially now. But, you had talked about someone commenting, with something you had said, and you just don't know who it's reaching and at what point in their life that they're reading it at. I do remember at that time someone did reach out and was like, yo, I've been loving the things you've been posting, man, keep going and doing all that stuff. And I didn't even think about it. I had probably this person I hadn't talked to in years, but they just happened to see it and they've been enjoying it. But yeah, no, and even like I have this project, and I'll tell you, I guess it's not a super secret project, but this 2026, what I've been wanting to do is like a video journal. And because I used to have attempts at journaling, but it always gets to a point where I'm like just writing the same stuff every day, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of losing meaning for me. Which I try to do a video every day in 2026 that I can release in 2027, like a video that I released made January 1st, and 1 year later I'll release, just to kind of like show one how that year went or where my mind was at. But I'm also curious to see, okay, that's what I had said or what I was going through. How is life different now? So yeah, that would be another way to be vulnerable and just put myself out there, which we'll see. I don't know if I will commit to that a year from now, but it's a nice thought to be vulnerable in that way. And I think even on this podcast and interacting with folks in real life, sometimes showing your vulnerability helps people open up or like connect and reach out to you. Or I always feel like, especially on this podcast, if I have someone who isn't as, not feeling as comfortable, I definitely get in there and be like, oh, well, this is my answer to this question, just so folks can get that judgment kind of broken, or that feeling of like, oh, this isn't a safe place. So yeah, man, I think you showing your vulnerability on social, or even, with the situation yesterday, it just helps people feel more comfortable and feel safe in this world, or at that time with you.
Yeah, bro. Can I add to that?
Oh, for sure, man. Oh, I've been going on these tangents, dog. So if you ever want to jump in and add stuff, feel free.
Yeah, someone asked me, is vulnerability learned or is it something you're born with? And I had to really think about that. And I said, one, another recommendation, Dr. Brene Brown. She's like I don't know if you heard of her, but Dr. Brene Brown, she studies vulnerability and all that. She helps define exactly what it is. But truly, her message is like, because we are human, we are born to connect. And again, in this world of social media and technology, studies and research has shown that we are more lonely and disconnected than ever. And it's sad, you know what I mean? And I'm thankful for this opportunity tonight to connect with you. And I'm sure we're going to have more talks in the future. I already feel that. I feel that energy and that vibe, because I just feel it. You just kind of know. But I don't think as vulnerable, vulnerable and extroverted as I may seem, I was actually a really shy kid. And it was through life and experiences and putting myself out there and getting rejected that I learned to be confident in myself. And even if I share something and people don't respond to it, at least I know, selfishly saying, at least I know I put my heart on the line to help me be free. As I say, if I go throughout my life, I want to be as vulnerable and metaphorically naked as I can, because I know someday when my time comes that I will be free in my heart, I didn't hold anything back. Because again, one of the top 5 regrets of the dying, I wish I had the courage to express myself. And I think a lot of people, as my mentor taught me, they die with the song left inside of them. Like there's something that someone always wanted to say, or I wish I would have said I loved you, or I wish I would have told them how I felt. But for me, dog, I want to know that every single night, even tonight, I want to give everything I had in my heart through my words, through my heart, and leave it all up there on the line. That's kind of like my football. Growing up, I love football, played football, and I just leave it all on the field, bro.
No, that's I would say that's almost learned, dog. Because I feel like there's other ways we learn. We almost learn the opposite of that, and we have to unlearn that to actually be vulnerable. And that's, if when I talk about young people having that, or like being comfortable who they are, I think that's what it is. They are vulnerable, they're honest and open, and I don't feel like they're trying to impress anybody. They're just being themselves. And I think that's something that I feel like folks really keep to themselves, or like to their close ones, and it's not really something that they feel like the whole world should see or know. But it'd be interesting. I think it'd be super interesting if people were, who they wanted, if they were expressing themselves the way they wanted to be, and just open about it and how that would look like. And I would like to think a lot of, I don't mean politics as like the government politics, but just politics within the workplace or politics at school, and all these things could not really exist as they do now. And we might be happier for it, but yes, we could expand on that conversation for sure at another time.
Yep.
Second to last question for you, Jason, is what would you like to ask the next guest on 34 Questions?
I would like to say, how are you showing up in the world?
How are you showing up in the world?
Yeah. And that can be like open-ended, right? Because that can go a lot of ways. But I think that's big on the reason why I say that is, again, whatever roles we play, whatever son, brother, uncle, whatever we do in this life, how are we showing up? And we show up differently in all those different aspects. As a son, right? As the father figure in my household, as the little older brother I had to be to my ate, like at a young age too. Like I know how I need to show up, and am I living in alignment with that? So essentially, hopefully that question, the way it's perceived with your next guest, is like, how am I showing up in the world? Like, oh, it helps anyone who's listening or watching, like, damn, I got to step up, because we all have some kind of purpose in this life, and someone out there depends on us and looks up to us, even though we may not see it. But I know, like, there's something about walking into that party and you hear Uncle Jay and you have 5 kids just running on you and tackling you, like, that lights me up, bro. And I just want to continue to show up as that person that they see me as and that they've grown up with, and I will continue to do so, especially for my wife and son too.
No doubt, man. No doubt. I like to answer this last question as well, or like the question from the guest. So how am I showing up in the world? I'll tell you what I like to think, or what I attempt to do, right? Or how I feel like I am showing up or want to show up. But one, I think I want to show up with consistency. Like, I'm not a person that I want people to feel like I switch up or I'm different in this space versus this space. I like to think that I show up consistently. Two, I think that I wouldn't say egoless, but you can tell that I'm somebody that tries to fight my ego when it comes to a lot of things, or like try to calm it down. Because I do recognize, as much as I try to, it's not all the time. And in those moments when it's not the way I want it to be, then I kind of have to recollect myself and really adjust my train of thought. But for sure, those two things off the top of my head, I hope people see me as someone that shows up consistently and somebody that's trying their best to quiet his ego. But yeah, for sure, man, that's a great question. Curious to see who or what the next person says. Shout out to Mr. Keller coming on Thursday. But yeah, and before we get to the very last question in the podcast, just want to thank you again, Jason, for coming through. Shout out to you. Shout out to LJ, man. Thank you, LJ, for making.
I was just gonna say that. LJ, what's up, bro?
Yeah, man. So that's dope. I hope you check this out as well, man. You made this connection. But yeah, any other shout outs or anything you want to throw out there? Do you have a podcast yourself that you want to folks to know about?
Well, again, first of all, I'm honored. This is actually the second time in my life I've been part of a podcast, and I totally made it my goal to reach out to anyone. And it was crazy, life and all that. But like I told you, timing truly is everything. We're supposed to be in this moment. So I honor you, not only just for what you do for the kids and the community. I know personally how hard this is to do, from the editing to being on the mic, right? The anxiety of it all sometimes, especially meeting someone you haven't met. So I just want to shout out you for everything that you're doing, and continuing to trudge forward, right? Because, I'm sure we'll have talks offline about, connecting on a deeper level, but to go through what you've probably been going through and now showing up for yourself to make an impact is truly tremendous thing. So shout out to you, and to the world, I guess. I want to say to my son Logan, I love you. Daddy loves you, man. He's working every single day to be his best, to keep breaking those curses. And wifey too, love you, Kim. All my family and friends. Just if my time ever comes, as I say, I hope you can watch this and know that I gave everything I had for you, and I always will. And just keep being kind to each other, y'all. Like, we really, really need this. We really need it more than ever in this world. And so, yeah, I do have a podcast. I have Jason, the Jason Manaling Show, and I'm about to have you on my show too, bro. So I just been in that journey trying to get on top of it again too, organizing it. I mean, I got my mic right here too. I got my setup right here. I just,
I see you, dog. I see you, dog.
Right?
Say same thing like this, right?
right. Yeah, but what you have to go through in order to. I actually started in 2022, and once I got on the mic, I just had a big panic attack and anxiety, and I think because of the stuff that I was actually talking about on my pod, made me realize, like, oh my God, I've held this thing in for so long, which 3 years later led me to therapy. So it was a blessing, and it's continuous growth and healing. But again, the long-winded answer is continue to heal out there, men, women, children, whatever it is. Just keep continuing to heal and grow. Ask for help, learn to ask for help, and know that there are people in the world that are willing and able if you just learn to ask for help.
That's dope, dog. And you basically answered my last question that ties everything together. So if you missed that, make sure to rewind so you can hear it twice. But the last question was going to be 100, 200, 300 years from now, what would you like the future to know? And I think you said it. I think that was great right there. Unless you had one last thing to add for that, but it's all good if not.
No, I mean, I think, like I said, this opportunity, I did. Oh, we did it. We done did it.
you did it, dog. You did it, dog. For sure. I want to thank you again. I want to thank the folks out there who are listening on Apple, YouTube, or on Spotify. Appreciate your time as well. Remember to reach out, reach forward. As always, much love. And we'll catch you guys next time on 34 Questions. Peace. And then it kind of fades out from there, dog.